moved abroad 6 years ago. First to the Czech Republic, and now I live in Germany. And when I moved, of course I expected to learn and realize a bunch of new things about these places. But what I never expected was that I would start to see my own country from a different point of view. But that's what's happened. And during this last trip back to America over the holidays, I made a list of a few of the things that I noticed about the US that suddenly jumped out at me after living in Europe for 6 years. And you're watching Wanted and Adventure Living Abroad. Over here, in general, strangers, on the street or in the supermarket, don't often engage in conversations. Not the case in America. And after being over here for so long, I pretty much just got used to not engaging. At first, I was really upset when the cashiers at the grocery store just stared at me like I was crazy when I asked them how their day was going, but now it's just become normal. And it really hit me that I was back in America this last trip because just a few minutes into landing at the Philadelphia airport, several people in line had already struck up a conversation with me. After clearing customs, I had to run through the whole airport to catch my flight, and when I finally arrived at my gate, gasping for air, people made small talk with me about shared experiences running to catch a plane, and a couple even offered me chocolate and water, and I was like, yup, I'm back in the States. But it took me a few days to adjust, and I found myself making one social faux pas after another as I forgot to say hello to the cashier or forgot to chit-chat with the person on the phone before just launching into whatever it was I had called about, making a reservation or whatnot. With my new point of view, I also noticed a few quirky things about my homeland. Now, when I started this channel, silly me, I thought it would probably be mostly Americans watching. But according to the emails I've gotten and the statistics YouTube sends me, the majority of people watching live right here in Germany. So, thank you to my German audience for listening to me point out the things I find interesting here in Germany. This is for you. Here are a few of the things I now realize are interesting about America. First of all, I must admit, Americans don't walk, we stomp. Mr. German Man has been telling me that I stomp around the house since day one, and now I will officially agree with him. This last time back at my parents' house, I really noticed how loudly we all walk. My parents were plodding around so loudly and so strongly, I kept thinking they had to be angry or something. And it's not just them. At one point, I lived with some American roommates here in Europe, and I always knew when it was them coming home because they were the only ones that stomped up the stairs of the apartment building so loudly. I'm guilty of it too. Definitely. We are a country of purposeful stomping walkers. This next one is a little serious. Now, I know it varies from state to state, and it could have changed in the last 6 years, so please let me know if it has. But as far as I know, in America, teenagers simply learn to drive from their parents, and any kind of professional driving courses are optional. Is this convenient? Yes. But is learning to drive from your parents the safest thing? Maybe not. Now, I don't think getting your driver's license should cost thousands of dollars like it does here in Germany, but I do think a few mandatory driving lessons from a professional in the field wouldn't be such a bad thing. At some point, I will do a video just about the different road rules in America and Germany, but for today, while we're on the subject of motor vehicles, let's talk about the four-way stop. The first time I was driving with Mr. German Man in America, he was so shocked when I told him that it was his turn to go at the four-way stop because he had gotten to the intersection before the other car and that he needed to go quickly or else it would cause confusion and you would have to be, motioning to the person, go, go, no, you go, no, you go, and then both would go and then both would stop and it's just a mess. While this method is perhaps a little fairer, first person there goes first, it can lead to confusion. And I must say, the German rule of right goes before left really does take any uncertainty out of the whole thing. I'm just saying. Okay, something else. Escalators. As I mentioned, I had to run through the Philadelphia airport to catch my flight. And at some point, there was an escalator with people standing on both sides blocking my way. That would never happen in Germany. When I first moved here, I always forgot about this rule. Stationary people stand to the right so that the people going quickly can go by on the left. I always forgot about it and I couldn't really understand what the big deal was. I get it now. It's a big deal. Something sweet and endearing that made me say, "Oh, America, you're so cute," was that during this last trip, I noticed for the first time employees at several large chain stores referring to the customers not as customers anymore, but as guests. As in, there's a guest here on aisle 4 that needs help finding a pencil sharpener or something. And lastly, while at the stores, I noticed how really odd it is that the prices on the price tags don't have the tax included. I just grew up always calculating in my head the tax and thought this was normal until I moved to Europe and realized that here, the price on the tag is the full price including tax. What a revolutionary idea! In all fairness, I'm thinking this might have something to do with the fact that in the US, every state has its own different sales tax. But still, I think they could figure something out. So my question for you is, what have you noticed? Quirks about your country or a country you've traveled to? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. And also, be sure to check out my Google Plus and Facebook page for more behind the scenes photos and updates. Until next time, Auf Wiedersehen! How about the chicken dance? That's a pretty good quirk about America. I don't think any other countries do the chicken dance. Okay, no response. Okay, I'm ready.